taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at another battle on Estuary. This time we are in the Ibuki. Now, Estuary definitely does seem to be one of those new maps that was introduced here that does take a little bit of getting used to in order to play. Now, we did take a look at Estuary a few times already and basically talked about going one side. In those examples, though, typically we were in battleships or supported by battleships as well, right? So, keep that in mind. Now, in the Ibuki, I do really enjoy the Ibuki. I think for a Tier 9 cruiser, the Ibuki doesn't get as much love as maybe she deserves. I've always had a strong affection for the Japanese cruisers, though, let me tell you. But I really enjoy the Ibuki. I didn't see the need to sell her, once I was done with the ship and moved on to the Zhao. I never really saw the need. Now, I don't take the Ibuki out very often because at Tier 9, usually I'm working on other things, specifically at this point in time, the Hindenburg, although now really it's just a matter of getting the credits. Of course, come June 22nd, with the new patch coming out, Wargame is going to remove Tier 9 and 10s from random battle play, so that should be interesting. Well, that rather should be interesting to see what happens when Tier 9 and 10s come back. But anyway, that being said, I do enjoy the Ibuki, and like I said, I don't think she gets as much recognition as she should. Now, you notice I'm flying I don't know, some crazy British flag that I got, and again, that speaks to the fact that I don't really play the ship too often, so I don't have the May month memorial flag, I think it's called. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, I do eventually decide to come over towards the east. You notice there at the beginning that I just kind of sat there, right? I was waiting to see what was going on with my team, what they were doing and where they were going. It does look as though the majority of my team actually is kind of headed towards the east, so that's, quickly what made my decision easy for me. Now, we do have a Russian destroyer off in the distance, a Estuary, I believe. So the Tier 9 Russian destroyer. Now, this Estuary, this player here, or at least a Estuary, I'm not necessarily sure if it's this exact player, but really was a thorn in my side the entire battle. So kudos to the Estuary captain, really making effective use of the Russian destroyer. At least I believe. I mean, I'm not very handy with Russian destroyers, and in fact, with regards to ranked battles, I was all about the Miyoko. I was like, yeah, the Miyoko is going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I managed to get, I think, to rank 13, drop down to rank 15, and I'm sort of rethinking the whole ranked battle thing. I don't even know if I want to bother with it, is sort of what I'm thinking. But I don't know. I have a Kiev, and I mean, maybe I should just get better with the Kiev and take that into ranked battles. Maybe I'll have better luck. Because destroyers definitely do seem to control the flow of battle in ranked battles. But anyway, we're not in a ranked battle right now. Normal battle, and you can see we're still firing off at the Estuary. This Estuary, you really do have to lead the Russian destroyers a whole lot, because they are incredibly fast. So you really do need to lead them a lot in order to do any sort of damage to the Russian destroyers, get any hits on them, basically. So I kind of circled back. I'm heading towards the west side now, and this was my general play. I mean, I did not want to push so far forward that I would no longer be able to count on the support from my team, and also I didn't want to push too far forward because I didn't want to get focused down. As great as the Ibuki is, in my opinion, she is, she doesn't necessarily have that good of armor. You really, like with all the Japanese cruisers, you really need to watch your broadsides. You do not want to give enemies broadsides. If the enemies take advantage of it, you can quickly find yourself in a very terrible situation where you are quickly going to die. Anyway, you can see now that I'm sort of circled in behind the friendly turpets I have here. I have another friendly cruiser, Miyoko, in front of me as well. Now I'm going to continue my push down this east side, right? Going to continue this push down here and see what else we can see, what other ships we might be able to take some shots off at. And keep in mind on Estuary, it's very important that you just keep in mind as to where the enemies are, because sometimes you can actually get some pretty sneaky shots off in between the mountains, in between the cover. So keep this in mind when you're playing on this map. Really try and use the cover to your your advantage. Again, we've talked about it before on the channel, but it just gets truer and truer as time goes on, and the more I play on Estuary, the better use you can make of these islands as cover, the better off you and your team are going to be. So we do have the enemy, I think that was another enemy Ibuki, came right around a little landmass there, so I got a nice little shot on the player. The player came around, launched off torpedoes, and you can see that the player is quickly paying the price, because this is a classic mistake that people make in their Japanese cruisers, is they try and get themselves into a position where they can line up torpedoes on the enemies, right? This is a mistake, especially at close range. You really want to keep your main guns firing and keep yourself in a position where you can continue to fire those main guns effectively, right? Making use of cover and supporting your team and whatnot. What the player did there was just, charge out, rather than fire off the guns, waited and waited until lining up the torpedoes, fired off the torpedoes and paid for it with his life, right? Classic mistake in a Japanese cruiser, and it's something you really do want to be aware of and try to avoid, because it's just going to prolong your life that much longer. So I do have a destroyer off in the distance in the smoke firing at me, but I see this enemy battleship on very low health, so I put a few rounds into him, and again, it's the enemy Estuary who's over there firing at me, right? You can see the Estuary's behind cover now. I have some pretty decent hit points at this point in time, so I figure I'm pretty safe and I'm pretty good to go, We see the Atlanta over there. I've got high explosive loaded because I was hoping to take out the enemy destroyer, so that kind of sucked. I think it would have did a whole lot more damage had I had the armor piercing, but still, that's a decent amount of damage. Did some critical damage there as well. Take a massive hit here from the enemy battleship off in the distance. This battleship really put the hurt on me, so now I'm going to turn, I'm going to line up some torpedoes, we're going to fire them off of this enemy battleship here as well. Now, I know the rant that I just did about, classic Japanese cruiser mistake and all that. Take a look at the situation I'm in, though. I only have one enemy ship in front, well, two, really. I have this enemy battleship and I have the enemy destroyer. It's not like as soon as I come around the corner I'm going to be facing off against, multiple enemy ships and have to worry about battleships and whatnot. And as well, as soon as I fire the torpedoes, I turn away. I'm not going to continue sailing straight at the enemy battleship, and I'm not going to turn and give myself, give a nice broadside to that enemy battleship either. Something you want to keep in mind. I know that the Ibuki and the Mogami, they have some really awesome firepower with these cruisers with the 8-inch turrets, but you do want to keep in mind and balance how often do you want to be able to get all of those 5 turrets off versus how many broadsides do you actually want to present to the enemy. So you need to balance this and keep this in mind, right? So I do get one torpedo hit there on the enemy battleship. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, at least I hit the player with one, right? I was surprised to actually hit it with one because the player was coming right at me basically, and it would have been easy for that player to actually avoid the torpedoes. You can see now that I'm down below, a little below half health, right? I'm retreating. I'm not going to carry on with the charge that I was doing. I am going to let some of my allies get into the battle here as well. Let them absorb some of the shots from here as well. And I'm going to come into the background and start sort of, just sizing down enemy ships, picking off any enemies that I may be able to pick off. But more importantly, just help support my battleships. Make sure that my battleships get up to the front line here, relatively unmolested. Specifically, I don't want the destroyers to come in and take them out, right? That would suck. So the American battleship is doing a classic play, threw it in reverse and is just sailing in a straight reverse away from us, so I'm not even going to bother with that player anymore. I mean, granted, the player is out of my range, but I'm just not going to bother hunting down that player. We can see the Atlanta making a push through the center of the map, very close to our base, in fact. So I'm actually going to start lining up some shots. I still do have high explosive loaded. I really should have shot armor piercing at that Atlanta, but again, this Estuary was top of my mind. I was very concerned about this Estuary and really wanted to make this Estuary go away. So we put in some more shots into the Estuary, again giving it a nice healthy lead to make sure that potentially I might actually hit the ship. You can see, no, even though I gave it all that lead, still wasn't enough, and the Estuary is actually turning away now, and it's getting close here to my max range, so I'm going to have to make a decision as to what exactly I'm doing with the Estuary. So you can see that the enemy Atlanta, who was getting up into our base, is now gone. One of my allies took care of it, and in fact 2 of my allied destroyers are now in the enemy capping the base. So fantastic, this is great. And this is something that I see a lot on this map, on Estuary, is whatever team can control either the east or the west and have a decent play and a decent hold on the middle of the map is generally going to win the battle. And I know that seems fairly straightforward, but it does have its own little nuances as well. Like, for example, your whole team just can't go on one side, right? If your entire team just balls up and goes down one side, well, you're going to have a pretty bad battle, most likely. There's not going to be anyone who's actually going to be able to defend your base, because you can see our base, my base right now, is actually being contested and capped. We do have some enemy ships, up there, making, wreaking some havoc there. So it's very important that you have allied ships in the middle, near-ish to your base, to make sure that they can quickly swing around and defend your base. Because Estuary isn't a very large map, not a very large map, but you have a lot of cover, so it's fairly easy to get from one side of the map to the other. So you need to keep this in mind, especially with having a team that is going to go all one side. If you notice your team all going one side, maybe try and take up position in the middle to help them out a little. So we do have an enemy battleship off in the distance, and I do have more or less a broadside onto this battleship, so this really sucks. But luckily, I was about to crash into an island, so I had to slow myself down, which bought me enough time, or actually changed my course enough that the enemy battleship, the enemy Iowa, his shots came in and didn't actually do any damage. And as it turns out, luck would have it, I don't actually end up colliding into the island. Fantastic. So we take out the enemy Iowa. This is fantastic. We have 2 enemy ships remaining. We still have the bloody Utiloid to deal with, and we have 1 more enemy battleship to deal with here as well. So you can see my friendly destroyer has just launched torpedoes off at the enemy battleship. I'm getting myself into a position to start firing high explosive at the enemy battleship as well. Coming around the corner, though, I'm going to have to hunt down this Utiloid. I'm going to have to do something about this Utiloid. I know I am, because he's just causing havoc right now with my team. So you can see the enemy destroyer's torpedoes that went in for the enemy battleship. One of them did manage to hit, so that's pretty great, but my friendly destroyer is now gone. That kind of sucks. So we're going to turn our ship. We're going to go basically bow on into the Utiloid. I know the Utiloid's in that smoke. I have my acoustic sonar ability popped. We have the enemy battleship almost dead. I fire off torpedoes at the enemy battleship, and then I turn away from the enemy battleship, because I'd rather present a broadside to the enemy destroyer than to the enemy battleship. Need to be careful with this, though. Keep in mind this is a Russian destroyer, so Russian destroyers have a knack for getting citadels on cruisers at close range when they are firing hot armor piercing. So I need to keep this in mind, actually. Even though now I'm a little over half health, or maybe the same place I was earlier, I still want to be very careful. Now you can see that we are basically going to win this battle, right? The enemy team didn't really show up, and when they did, it really wasn't effective. But I still want to get the Utiloid gone before the Utiloid actually kills me, because I'm pretty confident that this Utiloid could actually kill me if I wasn't paying attention. So turning my ship once again into the Utiloid, and that was basically my strategy, is keep the Utiloid on the bow and fire at him. Now one of my allies takes out the Utiloid, so kudos to my ally, and we can see that the battle is now over. Fantastic. So not too bad of a battle, about 100,000 damage. I managed the 1 kill, 1 citadel hit, 1 torpedo, but still not too bad at all. And you can see what I mean about the Ibuki is actually a pretty great cruiser. She's not going to excel in any one specific area, but what she does have, much like all of the other Japanese cruisers, is options. They give you options. You have your main guns, you have your torpedoes, you have some decent AA defense at your ability as well. So what are you going to choose given the situation you're in with the Japanese cruiser? And usually you'll find the Japanese cruiser is going to have a decent answer to the problems you come across on the battlefield. Well, I guess the waters, maybe. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comments section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.